I distinguish not giving a shit from worry or fear about what people think, and not giving a shit from compassionate consideration and concern for the impact it has on another person. And I believe that he has that distinction. So he gives that kind of shit.
That's huge. That's huge. Can we slow that down?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Mm.
I love that. Oh, man, that's good stuff. So it's not that he doesn't give a shit. He's just simply being in the spirit of love and sharing an observation in a complimentary way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Once Steve kissed me, I think kissed my feet, kissed my face, and then he said, I won't kiss you on the lips. And so for me, the kissing the feet, kissing the faces, I don't give a shit about social standards, but I won't kiss you on the lips is I do give a shit about you being uncomfortable with the possibility that I might. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Man, that's freedom. Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm your host, Chris Doris. And before I introduce our guests for this episode, if you're not getting notifications, or if you're not getting the daily dose mental toughness tips in 30 seconds or less every morning at 6 a.m. in your email inbox to help you get your head right first thing in the morning, and if you're not getting notifications of my new blog posts, which come out every Tuesday, and if you're not getting notifications of these new Tough Talks podcast episodes every other Thursday, then we can remedy that situation by going to ChristopherDoris.com/lists, LISTS, ChristopherDoris.com/list, name, email, click, and you get all the goodies. So our guest today, his name is John Patrick Morgan. And let me read you his bio and then tell you a little bit about my experience of him so far. I haven't met him. I'm going to meet him in a minute. I was introduced to him, and I was introduced to who he is. And we've just had some email exchanges in setting this up, but I haven't spoken to him yet. John Patrick Morgan is a philosopher. He's a philosopher, a teacher, and a coach for individuals intent on living a beautiful life. For 2 decades, he's been supporting entrepreneurs, athletes, and artists in growing their peace, joy, and success through growing themselves. Students of his work share an obsession with self-mastery and a deep value of freedom, love, and personal power. Through hundreds of his free videos, online classes, and confronting yet compassionate dialogue, John helps people to discover how their mind creates their reality and how through deepening their heart, they can access deeper fulfillment, more power, and exponentially greater material results in their life and work. So I've been studying this man, J.P. Morgan. By the way, if you're going to Google him, don't Google J.P. Morgan. Google John Patrick Morgan. I learned that the hard way. There's a lot of stuff that comes up for J.P. Morgan. Just Google John Patrick Morgan, and there's a short story. When I actually postponed this interview because I went to start studying him, and I think I waited too long. And we were supposed to do this like 2 months ago, and I told him that I can't find your stuff, and he said to me, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Dude, are you kidding? I have like every stuff everywhere. I've been creating it for years, loading up. I have like hundreds of YouTube videos." And anyway, I Googled J.P. Morgan, but then when you Google John Patrick Morgan, boom, abracadabra. He's got plenty of content out there. Now, here's the deal. This guy, I can't wait to ask him. In fact, I think I'm going to start off by asking him about the whole philosopher thing. Like, he identifies himself, first off, as a philosopher. I don't know that I've ever met anybody who identifies themselves as a philosopher. That's pretty cool. So he's deep. Let's go get deep. I love getting deep. Let's get deep with this guy. All right, let's go find him. Where are you, JP? Here he is. John Patrick Morgan. What's up, buddy?
How are you, man? So much is up, and I'm just staring at your marker board. I'm loving that right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
word speaks to me so deeply.
I know it does, and that's why I put it there. I can't wait to talk about it. But before we do,
Mm,
I just read to folks in the intro your bio
mm,
and something that you and I we had an exchange in our emails leading up to all this, where I say, "Can we postpone a little bit because I've been interviewing. My team just told me, hey man, you're like getting heavy with like interviewing a ton of coaches. Can we
mm,
diversify for a minute?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's
mhm,
totally cool. But by the way,
mm,
coach is like the third term that I use to describe myself.
mm,
I'm really a philosopher."
mm, mm,
And I got to tell you, I can't remember. I'm fascinated by that
mm.
because I can't remember the last time that I was at like a cocktail party or some social event. And you know how
Yeah,
people say this shit. They're like, "Hey, what do you do?" I don't ever ask that question. I'm not interested in that
yeah,
question.
yeah.
But I'll ask some kind of derivative, like, like, how are you
Mm,
using your life or something like that.
mm.
And I gotta tell you, I just can't remember last time somebody responded with, "Hey, I'm a philosopher."
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
love answering that question that way.
Uh, yeah, I bet you do. And then,
Yeah.
and then, okay, let's act like that just happened. All right. So I just
Hmm.
meet you. I'm like, "Hi, nice to meet you. What do you like? How do you use your life?"
Hmm. Yeah. How do I? Well, that's a way deeper question. I love that. But if you were just regular Joe
Let's
saying, "What
just
do you
assume that
do?"
I asked, what would a question be that I would ask that you go, "I'm a
Wh-
philosopher."
Yeah, what do you do?
What do you do? Okay. All
How
right.
do
Great.
you can't even see how normal people talk because you're so like you've like gone so deep into it. You're like, how do you use your life? Isn't that what people say?
That's so great. All right. All right. All right. Do over. So,
Yeah,
hi. Oh, yeah. JP. Nice to meet you. I'm CD. What do you do?
I'm a philosopher.
Wow. Like, what do you, so what's that like?
Exactly. That's how it actually goes. People are like, that's literally what happens. And I just
And you
like
just,
they
and
just tee it up
you're
for
just
me, and I'm
waiting
like,
for it.
here we go.
And I bet
Yeah,
anything that you just stop right there. You go, "I'm a philosopher."
yeah, yeah. And I just wait and I see what they do with that. Yeah.
Great.
The reason I got to this was because for a long time I had the challenge with I'm a coach, and and then I met a friend who's a SEAL, Navy SEAL, and he does other things too. He's a TV producer, lots of stuff. But people say, "What do you do?" He's like, "I work on a boat,"
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh," and it's just like the downplay just makes it actually easy. And so I actually went through a phase of being like, "I'm a life coach." It's like as if that describes it.
Right.
There's a difference between like, I'm a life coach and I hope you think that's cool, then versus like, I'm a life coach. I work on a boat. And
Yeah.
so that was like the relaxedness around it. It's like, I don't need to say an answer that impresses you. I'm here to connect with a human being. So if that information is going to be useful, fine. But I'm just going to go on to the next moment and see where the possibility for authentic connection is. Whatever you need to hear, I'm happy to say it. And so I'm just like, so I'm a philosopher comes from that same relaxedness around like, I don't need to perform because you've asked that question. But for a
Awesome.
philosopher, but it's true for me in my orientation day to day. So that's like the most
Okay.
natural thing to say.
Perfect. So tell me about that, how it's true for you
Mm.
every day. What does that
Well,
mean?
I like that classic thing. Like if you had all the money in the world, you never had to work again, what would you do? And now so many of the things that I do, I would keep doing. When I looked at that, it's like, that's philosophy. That's an exploration of life and the meaning of life. Not from an academic lens, from the pursuit of absolute truth for some case, but like philosophy, maybe in the Stoic sense, or a lot of philosophers. And it's like a practical, pragmatic approach to living, understanding how to live in such a way that makes a great life. And so I'm a philosopher in that sense, not in like, oh, I went to university and studied philosophy, but actually I prioritize my life around the pursuit of understanding that creates a great life. And I have and I teach and I share that and disseminate that philosophy to give other people access to what I've found.
Yeah.
That's literally my primary orientation. It's what I do in my work, and I'd do it even if I wasn't being paid for it. And so it's the truth. It's the closest. It's the best word I've got to describe what is.
That's cool. No, I love that. Is there a story behind the sword behind you?
Yeah. So that's a samurai sword.
Ah,
Um, and it's taken on so much more meaning. But the original reason I bought it is to reconnect with my aggressiveness. That's kind of natural and part of my expression, like that warrior energy. I grew up, martial arts, learning how to defend myself, fought off some bullies in like fourth grade, and then, basically got some confidence. And it was part of my life until my early 20s, like black belt, self-defense, all these different things, grappling and things. And then I like went traveling and I discovered Buddhism, and I went like the whole nonviolence path. And I kind of just left all that stuff behind, but I didn't realize that I wasn't actually just moving on from it. I was repressing a certain aspect of my being that was expressed through the fighting arts. And so through discovering love and a greater power through essentially nonviolence, I kind of had created a little bit of a rejection or resistance of a certain aspect of myself, the warrior energy that was really true. And it still would come out in places, but it was like capped and controlled. And having 2 boys, and especially my first son, who's now 5, who's very aggressive, and the challenges in working with him, I started to feel like parts of me coming up that I was trying to keep down. And through some conversations with a good friend of mine, Teo, we identified that it was like, really, I need to find outlets for my warrior energy that's healthy. Otherwise that repression is going to come out in an unhealthy way. And so it's a symbol of reconnecting with that aspect of my life. And then through it being there in the background of every coaching call that I do, it's like, it's also a symbol of my commitment to being a champion for my clients. And sometimes that means cutting somebody's head off, proverbially, and obviously not literally, in service of them. So
speaking of cutting someone's head off and being of service to them, can I tell you the story of the very first day I met Steve Hardison?
Yeah. Cool.
This is probably like 16 years ago.
Okay.
I think it has to be, because if memory serves me, there were 6 years that passed between the day I met him and the day I started doing any work with him, because I was into thinking I can't afford that. Maybe we'll get to that. That's on my list, but I got a long list of things I want to talk to you about. So that might be episode 2.
Okay.
But I'll plant that seed, because we won't address it yet, but hopefully I can address it with you, because I would love to hear what your answer is to how do you translate the sentence, "Oh, I'd love this, but I can't afford it." So plant that seed to be continued on that.
Cool.
So I walk up to his front door and he answers. And the first thing he says is, "Wow, you carry yourself with a lot of confidence." And I said, "That's cool. Thanks, man." And he goes, "Yeah, typically, when I have meetings like this, we meet out in I don't think he called it the shed, but he just said, my office out back." And he said, "But come on in, we'll walk through." So we walk through his house, right? And then we get out by the pool. We're on the way over to the space where he does his work, which I think is affectionately referred to as the shed by some. And he stops me and he goes, "Your teeth are beautiful." Now I felt weird.
Yeah.
I got way weird on that.
Right.
Steve, I know you're listening to this. I tell this story all the time, man. And I love this. This is a beautiful story, actually. And it's, and there's, it's funny too.
Yeah.
Because I got all weird. I'm like, "Where are we going?"
Yeah. What shed?
Yeah. What happened? Shed?
What's in the shed? Yeah.
Down this shed. So, I promise you it's true. He doesn't remember this, but I do, because I felt so stupid, because I was so self-conscious and so awkward that I immediately said, "So are yours." I had never seen a tooth in his mouth. I'm like, I feel so stupid.
Yeah. That's great.
So that one, like, "So are yours."
Yeah.
And then he just said, "Oh, well, yeah," but he's like, "Well, actually, I'm starting to get some work done." And I just felt so awkward, And you know why I brought that up? And it's not just because, you work with Steve Hardison and he actually told me about you. Is how I know about you.
Okay.
It's not that. It's because I was watching your video. It's so in your YouTube channel, which, by the way, folks, go. Give yourself time.
You need about 500 hours.
Yeah, give yourself at least 250. You can do 2 visits, 250 hours a pop. So it was the top video, right? The one that
Yeah,
autoplays.
yeah, yeah,
As
yeah,
soon as
yeah.
you go on, the one that starts automatically is cool because you're out hiking up in New England and you got Asher, your son, on your chest. It's very, very beautiful, by the way. It's very,
Thank you.
super sweet. It was like, this is
Thank you.
really, really cool because you're like acknowledging him and kissing him and say, like, I think you got loud once. You're like, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
But you're at some point you were talking about something about self-consciousness. So is it cool with you if we just take a couple minutes and talk about what you think like is going on for us? Like Steve is simply stating what he's observing. He is not responding to any of the learned social self-conscious cues. Like, well, these are two dudes who don't know each other. You don't really say your teeth are beautiful. He don't give a shit about that stuff. He's way beyond that. Right?
I distinguish not giving a shit from worry or fear about what people think, and not giving a shit from compassionate consideration and concern for the impact it has on another person. And I believe that he has that distinction. So he gives that kind of shit.
That's huge. That's huge. Can we slow that down?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Oh man, that's good stuff. So it's not that he doesn't give a shit. He's just simply being in the spirit of love. And sharing an observation in a complimentary way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Once Steve kissed me, I think kissed my feet, kissed my face, and then he said, I won't kiss you on the lips. And so for me, the kissing the feet, kissing the faces, I don't give a shit about the social standards, but I won't kiss you on the lips is I do give a shit about you being uncomfortable with the possibility that I might. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Man, that's freedom. So let's talk about like how imprisoned we are. Like, so let's just use me as the example because I'm cool with that, right? Because I mean, obviously, like what was I responding to? Now you can speak for me. Okay. Like, why did I feel uncomfortable? I'm speaking for everybody. Like, why do we feel uncomfortable? Why do people feel uncomfortable with their truth?
Well, I think it sounded like when, the joke that we were making before, what happens in the shed was just like that is this something outside of the realm of what two guys say to each other? And am I uncomfortable with that? Right.
Yeah. I think the question I meant, yes. And maybe the better question is, why would I censor myself if I noticed that Steve had really cool hair, or right now, if you meet him, he's
I think we meet in the same thing. Hey, Steve, your body is amazing. Right. I mean, I want a body that looks like that when I'm your age. Can you send me more of the pictures, the ones where you're not wearing any pants?
Right.
It's like to say that to him, you have to be okay with the possibility of them thinking that you are wanting something that you don't want. You have to be okay with them getting it wrong. The impact that could have. And does that mean anything about you? Now, there's a difference between being worried about what that means about you and being worried about how much that impacts them and how that makes them not feel safe. So I'm not going to not ask a person to show me a picture of them without pants from my fear of what they'll think of me. But I would hesitate to ask that maybe of a woman I just met, because how might that make her feel unsafe, or a guy? Right. And so there's different. It's like, who am I being? Why am I holding back? If I'm holding back, it's not about the holding back. It's like, where's it coming from when it happens?
And am I in service to this human?
Yeah. And I think in most cases, what you're pointing to, and I'm just trying to create a more subtle distinction, but in most cases, there's so much more that we would share, we would say, and our willingness to share it as if it's not a problem actually creates a state of being that it's not a problem that can depotentiate the possibility that person is impacted in a discomforting way anyway.
That's a takeaway right there, brother, for people. There's so much more that we would say. Let's have that be a sentence and put some more on that sentence. There's so much more that we would say if
we weren't worried about what other people, if we weren't worried about how they would see us, if we weren't worried about them not loving us, if we said that.
Right.
One of my mantras in my business I use with my clients every day is, I care more about helping you than whether or not you hire me.
Oh, that's good.
And it's if I cared more about you feeling the impact that your teeth have on me through their beauty than I do whether or not you think it's weird of me that I said that. You think then if I care more about you experiencing that beauty than I do that you think I'm weird, then I'm going to say it. If I care more that you don't think I'm weird, then I'm not going to say it. So it's like a priority of love and service.
Yeah, right. Right. And going back to the distinction that you made about Steve, which is it's not as much about not giving a shit about what they think. It's about not being inhibited to express love.
Yeah.
Right. Or kindness.
Yeah.
Or simply being complimentary and sharing your truth.
And I think that and just to reiterate the other point that I was making in this that came through in your questions, like when you come from love, the same content could have less of an impact that makes another person uncomfortable than if it came from somebody else. So I would actually put to you that if you were actually simultaneously more open to receive Steve's love while he was saying that, then you wouldn't have been feeling as awkward or uncomfortable, that it was actually your lack of receptivity or blockage that created the discomfort in the first place.
So how would you coach me in that moment, the me of that day? Right. So if this is a kind of a cool scenario, right? So you pause the situation. So he goes, "Yeah, your teeth are beautiful." And I go, "So are yours." And you pause.
Right.
Right. Because this is like some virtual experience and me and you are working together and you're coaching me up on this. And you go, and you pause and you go, "Okay, all right, here's a moment. I want you to notice what's going on here. Let's open this up." What would you share with me? What would you help me see?
Yeah, I would how do you create that? How do you create that feeling in you that's awkward? We had fun joking about it, right? And that's one way to depotentiate an energy. Another way is to look at what creates it in the first place. So to use Steve's language, what is the listening that has a man telling another man he has beautiful teeth create that feeling? What's the listening? What's the thought?
What's the listening? What's the thought? So the thought is that this is awkward. The thought that this isn't supposed men aren't supposed to talk. Stranger men aren't supposed to talk this, brand new people, friends aren't supposed to talk this way.
Right. Yeah. So not supposed to, shouldn't.
Right.
So, and it's happening. It's like reality conflict.
Yeah. All right.
So it's not like we know the absolute truth is something different. I don't know what the truth is, but that idea meeting that circumstance is creating friction. Right. And so if I don't want that friction, one way is to not expose myself to that circumstance. She's like, whoop, back out the front door. Another way is to not have that idea.
How do I not have that idea? How do I un-idea that?
Well, I love Byron Katie's approach. Is it true? Is it absolutely true that a man that just met another man is not supposed to tell him that his teeth are beautiful? Is that absolutely true?
So moving forward then, so I can really capitalize on growing from this experience, right? And become more conscious and free myself up from the bullshit that I've learned that this would be a problem. That dude's saying nice things. Then the practice is to notice when I'm feeling that friction.
Yeah.
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 And then to ask myself,
what's the idea about the reality I have that's having me bump up against this reality right now in a way that's creating this experience?
Where's the problem in this?
Yeah. What rules have I got?
And are they true?
And I think the thing is that people fear that questioning their model of the world isn't safe.
What do you mean?
If I were to question that, then it's whoa, then all bets are off and guys can go around touching each other. And it's you just go on this, and it's doesn't this keep me safe in some way, these ideas?
Oh, wow.
So to question our reality is an existential threat. These are existential questions, which are empowering, but they're also threatening to the identity, to the sense of self, which involves our map of the world. And so, but to me, the most freedom is on the other side of questions like this.
Exactly what I was just about to say is I prefer to go through life in a flow state.
Yeah.
I prefer to have as little friction as possible because I feel like when prior to this most recent reinvention of my vocation, I was a sports psychologist, right? Working exclusively with athletes. And I just love studying the zone.
Cool.
The zone, the flow state where it's effortless ease. Nobody describes peak performance as a pain in the ass.
No. Yeah.
It's never happened.
No.
No one goes, that sucked. No one says there was a whole shitload of friction. It was horrible. I'm glad it's over. It was a great performance, though.
Doesn't work that way. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So my preference is to ask these questions, but it requires me to first have presence of mind, to have awareness, to be able to even say, this is uncomfortable, to be able to say that. I can't, right? What can I do with it if I can't even notice that I'm uncomfortable? Like this is making me feel uncomfortable. Like, wouldn't it be cool? Like if I could have a do over there and he says, your teeth are beautiful. I'm like, I feel really uncomfortable with that. I'm on you. I'm getting weird on that. Like if I can be that present, just say, I feel totally awkward right now.
Yeah. That's one of the things that emerged in my work with Steve is we always prioritized what was occurring in the present moment over anything we were doing between us in that moment. And I've taken that on so much in my work. And it's like, there's no better or more powerful place to do work than what's occurring right now between us.
Will you please re-articulate that first sentence? You said, well, yeah.
So
prioritize.
To use your example, like if Steve and I were on a coaching session and he said, you have your beautiful teeth and I was awkward, whatever our goal was, whatever we're talking about is 10,000 times less important than that experience that was created in that moment in me. That's what we're working on. Because if we don't work on it, it's actually like we came up with this funny joke. It's like, there was a point we realized that I had like ideas that were in the way of the coaching. And it's like, I'd been coming to coaching with earplugs and being like, I'm not getting as much value. I don't know what's going on here. It's like, we want to take those out. And so it's like that, the teeth thing's an earplug.
Yeah.
And so that becomes number one priority to not address it. Right. And not only it doesn't leave the earplug in, but it misses out on the opportunity to deal with something that's alive. That's right there. You don't have to talk about it conceptually. You're with it. You don't have to like go back on the instant replay and push pause. You're in it.
Man, this is so good. How do you get better at practicing? Can I tell you one more story? I'll give you a short version of it because I'm remembering it now. I went to do some work in India at a place called the Oneness University.
I've heard of it.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay. And while I was there, the person that I was in attendance with is like an ambassador for that place, right? And she's been there a million times, and she knows all these people. And the main teacher, not the founder, his name is Sri Bhagwan, but his at the time number one student or teacher rather, his name is Sanskrit. It's Anandagiri Ji. Which translates into mountain of bliss. How's that for a name?
Cool. Yeah.
And it's a good name. It was an appropriate name. So I'm standing out front of one night after all the stuff is over, the work is over, and we're just standing out front of the place where we're staying. And down the path comes walking the founder's son, who's the business guy of the place, right? And his best friend, who's Anandagiri Ji. So they come walking down, and my friend Manisha, she says, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you," to the son. And so they're talking, they're chatting it up because they hadn't seen each other in like a year or so, right? And I'm standing there, and Anandagiri Ji is just looking at me, and he's just looking at me. And I get weird, and I go, I gotta fill the space. I'm so uncomfortable. I gotta fill the space. I gotta create some noise because I'm getting goofy staring at him. He ain't saying shit, and I can tell he'll stand there for the rest of his damn life until he feels inspired to say something. Which and I go, "You're a great storyteller.
You got nice teeth."
I hate that I didn't say that because he great teeth. That would have been better. But it was a true story. The dude's an amazing storyteller, but that's just like, so what? I said that because I'm awkward, because I'm feeling goofy with the silence. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he did.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got from him.
Yeah.
Back in the side, he didn't say thank you. He wasn't doing anything to try to rescue me from my discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just inspired. He's just being.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Mm.
So this guy, the next morning, the first thing in the morning, there's a meditation, then there's a lecture, and he's giving a lecture. And he walks into the room. Everybody's already sitting down. He walks up to the front, takes his shoes off, gets in this big old chair, you know, crosses his legs and stuff. And he sits there and he goes, and I promise you this is true, 5 full minutes of just going.
Mm.
And I'm like Jersey boy going, okay, babe, I ain't here for a fucking staring contest, bro. Okay, I want to learn some shit. Can we get on with the deal? I want to take some notes, learn some shit. Isn't that funny? Like what, you know, the dude infinitely present. And he'll start when he wants. Like he's just with what is. And at some point he'll, you know, people start giggling because they're feeling the same. Like this is weird. And he'll giggle with them because he's enjoying the joy, but he's not going to rescue anybody. You know, and then when he feels comfortable starting, then he picked up like exactly where he left off yesterday and goes. And isn't it cool that I'm telling this story like a decade later? Because that's one of the biggest lessons was in silence. You know? So how do you help people get rid of that friction, that discomfort?
I help them see how they're creating it. Because they experience it as something that's happening. And that makes a mountain out of a molehill. But when they can actually discover how they actually create that feeling in the first place, then they have agency and relationship to it. And so that goes back to that question, how are you creating this? And it becomes existential. It becomes about my map of the world. People should talk, especially if they're on stage.
You know,
ideas like that.
How, especially if they're on stage, what do you mean by that?
Well, if this guy's up at the front of the room, we're all sitting here looking at him. He definitely should be speaking.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm recording the question. How are you creating this? Because that's a pretty important question, isn't it?
Central to my life. Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yeah. And it's either a weapon or a tool, depending on where it comes from.
How could it be a weapon?
Well, as soon as you learn that it's a useful question to ask, and then every time something doesn't go the way that you want, if you ask it, how am I creating this? Because I should have gotten it differently by now. It becomes like this stick that people just whip themselves with. And my clients learn the power of it and they weaponize it and they just beat themselves up with it. But if you're actually asking it as an expression of your innocence and inquiry to grow yourself because you're curious, then it's a tool.
Okay. Word. I got that. That's cool. You want to shift gears a little bit?
Yeah.
Can we talk about your favorite word?
Abracadabra.
You know, I watched your podcast that you did. You were a guest on Vanessa Brewer's
cool
podcast.
She's so great. Yeah.
She is super cool. She's great. She's a phenomenal.
She's powerful. Yeah.
Unbelievable host. She's so present with her guests, but she also introduces them in a way that I've never known anybody to do it. It's incredible.
Her whole process is beautiful. I was so inspired by it. Yeah.
Right. And you know what else I love? The name of her podcast. It's the favorite podcast name for me of any podcast in history.
Yeah.
Practical Magic. How good is that? It's
awesome. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. So speaking of magic, let's go abracadabra-ish. Let's get in there.
Yeah, I don't know what I shared in that video because I made it so long ago, but I don't know if I shared my backstory to like how I came to the work that I do now, which we could call coaching, training, teaching. I actually was a performance magician. Did I mention that in the video?
No, you did not.
Oh, yeah.
No, man.
Yeah. You know, David Blaine, basically,
yeah.
I read his book years ago. I was doing street magic in America and then traveling the world. In India, I was doing it. And then I lived in London and I was busking in central London, doing magic at pubs. And Then I discovered hypnosis, and I was doing performance hypnosis, and that's how I discovered this world of coaching.
Did you like put people in trance and make them clunk like chicken
All the time.
You did that
Yeah.
shit?
Yeah. I'm not on stage in an alley or in a square, but
Okay.
yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
It's
You have any
and that
footage
introduced me to the power of the mind. What's that? What'd you say?
Do you have any? I said, do you have any footage of any of that?
Oh, there is some out there. Yeah, I can find an old video and link it for you. I was on a DVD, street hypnosis DVD called The Trilby Connection.
The what connection?
The Trilby Connection. I don't know if it's still out there, but a guy named Anthony Jacquin wrote a book called Reality is Plastic. And a guy named James Tripp created a teaching called Hypnosis Without Trance. And the three of us used to hang out at a pub in London and like just experiment at hypnotizing people for fun. And then they grew those two big, Anthony trains all over the world. He still does with his dad. James has a very successful business in hypnosis. And I kind of moved into the world of coaching. But it's still like my grounding, like the understanding of how our language and our speaking creates a world inside somebody's mind. I just basically moved into helping people to access that and through a modality of conversation in a different way.
That makes so much sense now because, I took one training in Ericksonian hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And you use trance-inducing language always.
Unconsciously so much. Like I studied it for so long. It's just part of my unconscious vernacular now. Yeah.
Well, so what does this word mean?
So I don't know what the truth is, but I love the idea that it etymologically comes from two Aramaic words, Abracadabra. And that in Aramaic to Hebrew would mean, and I've had people that are that speak Hebrew and that can read Aramaic and Hebrew, see the writing that I have on my door of my office and say, oh, that says Abracadabra. That means I create as I speak. I create as I speak. And so I love the idea that abracadabra comes from that. Whether or not it's absolutely true, I have no idea. There's people that think it is, people think it isn't, but I run with it is because to me, spelling out a word and casting a spell, etymologically, the word spell is from those two different meanings is connected. And to me, like speaking language is magic. I believe that that's what magic is. We take an idea and a concept, a possibility, we put it in the form of words, and then it takes physical form in the world. And so I believe that all of our actions and behaviors come from our state of being. And that's who we are in the moment, what we're feeling, but also what we're conceptualizing, the meaning that we have, the thoughts that we're having. And where does thought come from? Thought actually comes from speaking. First we spoke, then we thought. The evolution of internal dialogue was the result of the emergence of external dialogue. First, people danced and they made sounds, and then those sounds started to represent things, and then they would echo that external sound and representation in their mind and hear the sound in their mind, and then it became more complex words with the mouth, and then those words would be echoed in the mind, just like we see something out there, then we see it as a memory. And so internal dialogue, thinking, is a memory of speaking. And like kids, when they're born, they don't have thought in the sense of internal dialogue. It comes as they learn to speak through listening to speaking. And so there's, in the Bible, it says something like the tongue is the rudder of the ship. It's like what we actually speak.
Cool. I like that. The tongue. Oh, I love that.
The tongue is the rudder. What we speak creates our internal thinking. So watch your mouth.
Yes. Watch your mouth. What do you mean by, I think a lot of us have heard that. Watch your mouth.
Yeah.
Watch your mouth, young man.
Yeah.
But that's not.
I heard it that way as a kid. That's not what I mean, right? But
right.
Just watch it with awe, with awe and with innocence. Watch what it does. I tell this story about reporting on suicides. And so this is a little known reality that's been studied multiple times, that when a local news agency reports on suicides in that local area go up for a time, and they'll trail back off to the norm again. And they've studied this in different areas. And what they see is that like when people in that local community get the idea from watching the news that somebody killed themselves, unfortunately, they're more likely to do it themselves.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I think that just, people follow, oh, that's the solution. Somebody else has done it. They went first. I guess I'll only do it. If they're on the edge and the fence and somebody goes first, it makes it a little bit easier. Just puts the idea out there, right?
Okay.
And so then you realize that reporting is not an innocuous act. It's not like reporting doesn't have an impact or influence. Reporting on a suicide actually creates more suicides measurably. And so reporting is not an innocent thing. And people report on their life. I haven't been going to the gym, and they think, man, I'm good at acknowledging myself. Hey, I'm not just acknowledging it. I'm like, dude, the first time it was acknowledgement. After that, you've been reporting on suicides. You're actually just creating more of it. And so watch what your mouth does. Are you using it to report on suicides? Are you calling it acknowledgement? That's really a masquerade for an entrenchment because you can't describe something without creating it. Description is creation. So every time we speak of something, we move it forward. And so watch what my mouth does. And so in this moment, I can be aware, and I can even acknowledge it once to give myself pause. But from then on, let me speak from love as an act of creation, as, whatever it is that I would love to be different, speak that as fact now.
Well, can you repeat that?
Whatever it is that I would love to create, whatever it is I aspire to, speak that as fact now. I just coaching a client this morning. He's like, oh, I'm just so unprepared for my trip. And I'm just worried about how to not feel this anxiety around it. I was like, stop creating unpreparedness. And he's like, well, I don't have time to do all this stuff. I was like, no. Unpreparedness is a state of being that's spoken and created. You can actually speak unprepared. Yeah, but I don't have time. No. I didn't say go and do a bunch of things. Speak preparedness. You can actually just speak, I am prepared. And then from that state of being prepared, you'll find that there's nooks and crannies of time and things get done. But
that's huge.
The idea can come first.
The idea can come first.
Mm-hmm.
The idea can come first before.
In your speaking.
What?
In your speaking.
Yeah, right. The idea can come first before the desired circumstance.
Yeah, before the circumstance, and even before the actions that would create the circumstance.
Right. I love the phrase, watch your mouth.
Yeah, thanks. That's our t-shirt, man.
You're damn right it is.
I told you we'd create one here.
Yeah, baby.
Did I not tell you that would be created in this conversation?
You sure as hell did.
Yeah, you tried to make me twice order one of the ones. Graciously, I love it, but I'm like, dude, let's wait. It's gonna happen.
That's right. They try to force you to order a day.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I don't mean to sound ungrateful.
I'm gonna get a shirt on you.
Yeah, I can't
watch
wait
your
now.
mouth. That's what it is.
Awesome.
Is that the one you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't even believe that I haven't created that one yet. This is perfect.
Cool.
Thank you for that, Bill.
Damn, fist bump. Like it.
So, anything else on that?
Not right now.
I want to share something with you because after watching your videos and listening and your interviews and stuff, especially after Vanessa's, and I actually shared this with her. I had a conversation with her after you guys talked, after Devin and you. She's interviewed like all my favorite people in the world. I want to share with you something that happened for me. So I went. Are you familiar with A Fest in Mind Valley?
I know of them. I've never been associated. Well, I'm in a Mind Valley course, but I don't know how.
Oh, really?
Okay. I think through somebody else.
So one of their events is called A Fest. Okay.
Yeah.
The A stands for awesomeness, and that is perfect for the event. Okay. So I go to these things, and I went to one a couple years ago, and they're like 4 days long, and you're around globally conscious people full of love. Like it's the norm where you just hug somebody and you don't even have to say anything. You don't know them. That's the norm. And it is normal. And then like after a day or two, you're there like, why isn't it like this on New York City? This is the way it always should be. Like this is normal. Acting, like waiting to like love. So anyway, so when I leave an A Fest event, I imagine that if a cell phone had emotions, I would feel the way it feels when it's got 100% charge. So the last time, it was in Sardinia. The last one was that I was at, And it was actually was the last. No, it wasn't. Whatever. So I've been to Italy before, right, a couple times. So I didn't really feel like I wanted to go do Italy, but I wanted to do something else over there after it was over. So I asked my birth mother, who's an intrepid world traveler, what should I do? And she didn't even pause without even like batting an eyelash, not even with a breath. She goes, I'll tell you exactly what you're doing. You're going island hopping in the Greek Isles with no itinerary, alone. I'm like,
Cool.
you,
Yeah.
this is why I hang with you. So I did. Now, short story is because it's not a short story. It is a very long story. It is, I'll tell you what. So all I did was bring a little carry-on. In fact, I forgot my toiletries. I didn't have that. I didn't have a damn toothbrush. I had nothing. Except, you know what I had?
What?
An unbelievably high vibe.
Cool.
And I created, these is 48 isolated stories of magic. So after that event was over, I didn't create this. I'm going to share a mantra. I can't, I'm going to ask for your help on the language here, because I didn't create the mantra. The mantra was created through the experience. The mantra happened. So it wasn't like, oh, let me think of a way. No, it just like became, right? And here it is. And I want to hear your response to this, if you have one, okay? Magic is all there is. It is the constant in this equation we call life. The variable is my ability to slow down enough and vibe high enough to co-create with it.
Cool. I love it.
What do you think about that?
I love it.
I've been looking forward to asking you that question, this question.
Yeah. What do I think about it? Meaning, like,
I don't
do
know.
I think it's cool? Like,
no.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah, no. I love it, but there's a deeper question behind your question. What is that? What do you really want to know?
From you on this?
Yeah.
It was this morning. This is great. I don't know yet. I'm working through it. This wasn't in my notes to include until this morning. For something happened this morning, and I don't remember. It was on my way back from the gym, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to ask him that. I was listening to Wayne Dyer's Inspiration, the recording of his. I don't know what it.
He's got so much stuff. I don't know. I've heard so much, but
he was talking about interconnectedness and synchronicity and stuff, and not being phased by, like, being present and paying. That's exactly what it was. He was talking about paying attention to when coincidences, synchronicity and all that stuff, and being able to play with it because it's always going on. And that's what I remember. Like magic. And I want to, and you're a philosopher. So I wanted to know how you hear that. I don't know if that's the question behind it or not yet.
Yeah. So maybe is the question, what do I hear in that?
Yeah.
Because there's lots. I mean, I'll just take a riff on a few things. Everything is magic speaks to me so much, in the sense that I believe everything that we're experiencing, we're creating, through our consciousness, through our mind. And so we're creating it through how we create, that is magic. It's magic. It's magical. It's beautiful. It's awe-inspiring. It's miraculous. So I hear that right off the bat when you speak it. There's something about a constancy in there. Was there the word constant in there?
Yeah,
continuous.
Magic's all there is. It's the constant in this equation we call life, because it always is.
One of the first things I speak every morning is, I am consciousness constantly creating itself, and my being now here is primary. I am consciousness constantly creating itself, and my being now here is primary. That's the first thing I say each morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
I am consciousness constantly creating itself.
And my being now here, one word, now here, is primary.
Now here.
Yeah. Can you read it again?
Yeah.
Now with the question in mind, I'd love to hear it again.
Yep. Magic is all there is. It is the constant in this equation we call life. The variable is my ability to slow down enough and vibe high enough in order to co-create with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Co-creation, vibe, slowing down. I mean, I am silent and I am still. That's like a very central piece for me. Going in to access like that, what possibility there is. Yeah, I love it. Maybe that's all we're here to do, is to connect on that.
Right on.
Magic is everything. I mean, that's just, to me, um, that's a great way to start the day. It reminds me of be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am everything and nothing. Be still and know that magic is everything. Yeah.
Roger that.
Mm.
I don't remember where. When I first started researching you, I saw something. I can't find it. Couldn't find it today or yesterday, but it was something you wrote something somewhere about conditioning your mind and heart. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. Can you tell me how you do that? Wait. Can you tell me two?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, how many hours are we doing this?
I was like, do you have 8 weeks? But yeah, go ahead.
One, what does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, can you give us just, I don't know, anything on how?
Yeah. Let's talk about the first thing. What do I mean by that is, for me, the foundation of peace and well-being and freedom is the conscious recognition, the actual recognition, not just intellectually, but the actual recognition that I'm experiencing my conditioned mind and heart. Like there's stuff is just arising because it's pretty much inevitable based on circumstance meeting these conditioned propensities in my nervous system, in my body. Like the way I think of metaphor that I use is like, thoughts are like the waves arising on the ocean, right? They just appear. But where do they come from? So they just appear. Well, my background is physics. And so I'm not so satisfied with that answer. It's like where they actually come from is there's a current in the ocean and there's wind. And where the current and the wind meets, a wave gets formed. The size of the wave, the speed of the wave, all these things depending on what the currents are, the direction of the wind. And so that's a metaphor for the thoughts that arise. They come from somewhere. Where do they come from? Well, they come from the winds of circumstances, what's happening in the world. Your wife yells at you, the truck drives over your bicycle, stuff happens. You win the lottery. Those are circumstances out there. That's the wind meeting the currents, which are your preconditioned ideas about the world, who you think you are. There's a current, there's a momentum of identity. And that identity, that state of alive in a present moment is a state of being, and it meets a circumstance and boom, a thought happens. And it's a wave. And so that's a conditioning. And so the freedom is in realizing that that's just happening, and you can actually step back through mindfulness practice or through any kind of practice of self-awareness. You can actually lean back and you can watch the currents. You can watch the waves form on the surface. And there's so much peace through extricating yourself from that, right? Becoming object to that whole experience. There's so much freedom there. And to a certain degree, that's a win, right? Because the rest of your life, as you practice watching the waves arise instead of being inside it all the time, you've just now accessed a level of peace and well-being. And just that in itself will allow the thinking to settle and will allow the state of being to be more at ease, which has the next wind that blows create a gentler wave. And so even that changes the predisposition for the next thought. But we are living in the world of form. I am the expression of conditions. And so if that's the case, I don't just want to create peace and well-being by extricating myself from that experience. I also, on my way back in, which is inevitable because I operate automatically, I want to condition my mind and my heart in such a way that when the wind blows in the same way next time, that a more healthy, a more functional, a more powerful thought arises. And so there's, like, to go back to an example before, there's like distancing yourself from the idea that men should or should not. It's like, I can just be free from the idea about judgments that men should or should not say anything. It's like, boom, I'm just free now. I can just I can just be somebody who can say something. It's like maybe a feeling, but like it's not who I am. I'm just watching it. I'm free. But then on your way back in, you could actually condition a new idea. You could condition I am that I always speak everything that I see that's beautiful.
Oh, okay. I am that I always speak
everything I see that's
everything
beautiful.
I see that is beautiful. I am right that I always speak everything I see that is beautiful.
Yeah, and imagine actually being that, and then walking down the street and you see somebody with beautiful teeth.
You're not, yeah, right.
Boom! It's just come out of you. It's like that undercurrent meets that wind, and that thought arises, and that action comes forth.
Yeah, like without the filters of which of these things are okay to say out loud.
Yeah,
like I can compliment the bike,
right?
Maybe the teeth gets weird.
Yeah.
Without that, yeah, that's freedom.
Mm-hmm. So it's more than freedom. Freedom is the ground. That's the foundation. But this is about power. This is about conditioning your mind in such a way and your heart in such a way that a specific kind of form comes through. And so it's like taking just light and like putting it from like incandescent radiant light into like a laser. It's being like, and so when I speak things like I am silence, I am presence, I am the best husband, I am the greatest father, I am a champion, I am a giant, I am that I live by asking and listening. When I speak ideas like this, I think of it like those Play-Doh molds.
Yeah.
Like love is Play-Doh, and all I'm doing is being like, and in my life, I want to have a triangle, and I want that Play-Doh to go through it and come out in that shape of best father, that shape of greatest husband, right? Like I want to come out that way. And so I speak these ideas to condition thinking that creates a state of being that when it meets circumstances like a wife or a kid or a client, like this is the kind of stuff that comes out. It just sets it up so I can live unconsciously, automatically, and have nice stuff show up.
Creation.
Yeah.
Not waiting.
Yeah, exactly. This is magic. This is like, this is about the world of form. This is about folding back into the illusion, creating illusions that are lovely, that are beautiful. If I'm going to live in an identity, which even if I'm mindful, it's like, I'm not going to pay attention to everything I'm doing in the car. I want to go on autopilot, and to be human is to live on autopilot to a certain degree, but I want that to be an effective and powerful autopilot, so I can condition certain aspects of it and let's let them run.
Did your client change the story about not being prepared for the trip?
By the time we finished today, he did. Yeah.
Oh, that was today.
Yeah.
Brother, this has been phenomenal. This is real. You're fun.
Thanks, man. I'm loving this too. You're great. Easy to talk to. Love it.
Yeah, right on. So let me ask one final question. What do you want people to know about Creator Circle 7?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for asking. It's not full. We have
Creator
some space.
Circle 7 and then Creating Insights.
Okay. So Creator Circle 7 is the 7th group. I do a couple of these a year, and there's 12 people in them. And it's a year-long coaching journey. We spend 2 hours together every week for a year. Cool. In a group of 12, including myself. And I create and dialogue with 2 people every week. And by the 3rd or 4th month, everybody has gone from feeling like strangers to being like, man, somebody just wrote in Creator Circle yesterday, Creator Circle 5, I think, or 6, that I know more about you guys and I feel closer to you than any of my friends. And it's an expression of my commitment to coaching and my relationships with my clients. It's like, it's way more than friendship. It's deeper than friendship. It's more intimate than friendship. Doesn't mean that my friends aren't special to me. It's just that we just don't go to the places I go with my clients. Mm-hmm. And so it's a life altering journey to become empowered to create your reality. And my client Clayton says it's the art of the creating perspective. The creating perspective is the name I give to my philosophy. It's the art of the creating perspective. And he said that your program, Being a Client Magnet, which is an 8-week training, is like the science of it. And so Creator Circle would be an adventure, a year-long adventure in the art of my work.
Who's it for?
Anybody that wants to create, really. Okay. So if you want to create your life and create your world.
So it's not a thing for coaches. It's not a thing for.
I'd say half people that show up, and half 2/3 are coaches. They're just drawn to my work. But no, I don't have any rules. I've never had somebody that has a job be in my work. I think because the depth at which I literally show people that they can create from has like that world just doesn't fit basically for people.
Well, hold on. So you've done 6 of them.
I've done 6 creator circles.
So
Yeah.
that's about 72 people.
Yeah.
And none of those 72 people had a job.
I haven't had a client with a job in 11 years of coaching, except the ones that we're trying to get out. And I've never said that I won't work with somebody that have a job. It's just that the conversation that I have, I guess, just doesn't attract that person. So it is what it is.
All right.
Yeah.
So where do people go to find out about that?
They can go to my website, jpmorganjr.com, jpmorganjr.com.
Yeah, of course, I'm putting all that in the show notes, but sometimes people just listen. Yeah. So JP Morgan Jr.
That's me. Yeah, my dad is
JR,
the same
but it's
name.
JR. It's
JP
morganjr.com. And then there's a tab for Creator Circle. Now, what about the Creating Insights thing? I just signed up for that today. I didn't see it.
Yeah, and that's my email list. And we go in spurts. Like sometimes we're sending out a lot, sometimes just a few, but it's like kind of like when I'm inspired with a new insight, a new idea, I share it with my list, with my people that want to hear from me. And so, and sometimes it's like, hey, I just posted a new YouTube video, check it out. So that's a list to make sure that if you really are interested in this stuff and you don't want to miss something, go for it. But for those who aren't hot on email, you'll get the Creating Insights by subscribing to my YouTube channel if they're in video form. If I'm doing it, wherever you like to hang out, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah.
Insights that I share, my philosophy is called the Creating Perspective. So Creating Insights for short.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you are definitely prolific on all the social media platforms. So follow him up, folks. Brother, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You're very welcome.
This has been awesome.
It has.
I look forward to maybe the possibility of a second.
Yeah.
Where we can talk about affordability.
Cool. All right.
All right, man. We'll put that on tap for next time. Thanks, brother.
Much love. Bye-bye.
Abracadabra. It means I create as I speak. So watch your mouth. That was really, really fun. Man, it's fun hanging out with people that are 95 million times smarter than you. That dude's a wizard. I should have called him that. Hey, you're a wizard. If you're watching this, JP Morgan, it's a perfect word for you. And I love wizards. I collect little pewter wizards and stuff. I love wizards. And you are one. So I'm happy to know you. Whew, that was good. All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in as always. If you love this, then do all the goodies like, click like, share, rate, review, whatever else you do to these things. Trying to grow the Tough Talks tribe, baby, because my content, my legacy. So that would be sweet. It really would mean the world to me if you could help me grow the tribe. And if you're not getting the daily dose or the my weekly blog posts or notifications of these new Tough Talks episodes, then go to ChristopherDoris.com/lists, LISTS. Name, email, click, and you will then. All right, guys. Until next time, great miracles.